And welcome into another edition of Closest to the Win. I am your host, David Stidham, and with me as always, Mr. Guru Nick, Guru himself. How you doing?
Doing lovely. Another week ready to win some money on the DraftKings world of high finance.
I love it. And of course, we got our pro, Drew. How you doing, man?
Doing well. Hey, always love a good team event. You know, there's nothing better than a little team chemistry.
You know, this is so different. There's people out there panicking, man. They don't know what to do. And you know what? Maybe nobody knows what to do. This is the dynamics are so different for a tournament like this. And we're going to get into some of that. But once again, thanks everybody for joining in. This is a part of the Hammercast Network. And we're very excited. Unfortunately, Justin is not able to join us today. He's on the road in Florida, making things happen down there. And so he should be back next week for our event. And so, as a matter of fact, what is next week? I can't even think about it.
Valspar.
Oh, yeah, Valspar. So, we'll have the full team back for that next week, hopefully.
I'll be out.
You'll be out. Pro will be out. He's going to be playing golf next week.
Yeah, hopefully. That's the plan. Hopefully the weather cooperates.
You know, I left early this morning, not even thinking about things. I had to go do a bunch of meetings, and I put on shorts and flip-flops, and I look out the window this afternoon, and it's freaking snowing out there.
Mm-hmm.
We got like an inch of snow. I'm like, what the hell? This is stupid.
I'm opening my pool in 11 days, and it snowed today, so we'll see what happens.
It's like, what the hell? And so, I don't know, man. Mother Nature, you scary. But yeah, it's the Zurich, it's New Orleans, it's TPC Louisiana, and it's another Pete Dye course. Obviously, if it's Pete Dye, that means you better have a good approach, right?
Yeah.
It's par 72. I hate those par 71s or whatever like we had last week. 7,425 yards. So long holes on this course. Bermuda again. And I don't know, man. Nick, what you want to talk about this course?
Totally off topic for a second, but the Euro event is playing on a resort course in Spain, and it's a par 70, and it's 6,500 yards.
Yep.
You want to go hit that, Drew?
It's actually kind of a cool course because it although it's 6,500, like there's holes you just can't hit driver on, like, right? So it plays like a longer 6,500 than you could think, but yeah, I mean,
you have like 6,500 in your backyard, right? Like you can go play right next door, right? I mean,
that is short. That's really short for a pro.
How do you not go shoot 59? Like, I would be embarrassed. I mean, it'd be embarrassed if I came away shooting like 68 or something and be like, yeah, I know I'm under par, but I'm not going to make the cut because half the field is 59, 60, and 61. I mean, I know that's Euro. It's a tangent. I just happened to see that, and I was like,
no, the Euro Tour actually does it. I could argue the Euro Tour is better overall, how they promote the tournaments they run than the PGA. They do like the shot clock masters. They do a bunch of different funky scoring events. European Tour is fantastic, but yeah, that's a short ballpark. That's I mean, it's basically calling guys of hitting iron all day long off the tee. And to be honest with you, to your point, most guys want 4 par 5s because as a better than average golfer, that's where you feast. That's where you can make up strokes, in your round.
I would love. I mean, 6,500.
If we take a road trip, let's go find a 6,500 course and go hit that. Like, I'm not going to survive at a 74 or 75, or God forbid we find something bigger than that.
This golf trip I'm going on, we're going to play more than likely the closest to 6,500 yards because we got guys that are 30, we got guys that are 70. So of course they can adjust tees, but I mean, if you're like a 30 handicap and we're just trying to throw you like 6,600 yards, it could be a long day for you.
So are you playing with one hand tied behind your back? Is that how this goes?
Hey, the handicap system screws the lower handicap golfers, I promise you.
Oh, absolutely it does. Anyway,
sorry for the tangent. I just happened to see that a little while ago, and that was
I love that
near the top of my brain there.
I'm going to talk to the uppers at the network and see if we can't get them to sponsor the three of us to go to a European Tour event to see how well they promote that thing.
Yeah,
I'll get my passport working on
they
that.
had a tournament last year. You had to go through a beer tent right? Like maybe it was 2 years ago because of COVID, but like you're going to the next tee box involved you going into basically a tent that had a carved off walking space where it was just a bunch of wasted people. Like, could you imagine the PGA Tour doing that?
That's Europe anywhere you go.
Isn't that Scottsdale with the waste management?
Kind of, yeah, to an extent, I guess.
Or it could be any building in Wisconsin. The drunkest state in America.
Go Pack. All right, so back to Zurich for a second. We'll go to
talk about Zurich. Let's actually talk about what the people are paying us for.
Different Switzerland for a second. All right, so it's another die course. We've talked about it, but trying to build this is a little different because it's the first time DraftKings has really dove into kind of this whole team match play thing. So there's going to be a learning curve for everybody. There's going to be folks that tell you one thing and are completely wrong, and I could be one of those people too, but I don't think so. I think there's a lot of people that are going to just misfire. And so I think there's going to be some probably dead money on the board because in the end, you're still going to have to score. There's still going to be a cut. I mean, there's 80 teams in there, and it's going to be the top 33 teams in ties, kind of like that top 65 in ties after Friday. So the objective is still to get, 6 of your teams through. I mean, that's primary goal number 1. And then, of the teams through, you hope that the ones you have are close enough to the top of the board that, they can score like heck on the weekend and end up, getting those finishing points that you need to max out. So this used to be an individual tourney up until a couple of years ago, and then they switched it to a team tourney. And so the stats that they have really out there are really a couple of years back, from the individual, and with no COVID last year, so there's another tourney where there's been a bit of a break. So yeah. I can't say I didn't use any course history, but I minimized it and hardly used it at all, to the point where most of my course history component was really using more. I dialed up the die stats, so to speak. And so, got your die specialist hot and heavy in here. And then I came up with this set of comp courses, and I let that serve as my course history, if you will. Then the odds, they're out there, but I don't really put a whole lot of faith in win odds, at least this week, because I think everybody is just, geared towards the top 3 or 4 teams, on the board. So it's pretty much, I went with top 5 odds, but then it's right behind it is made cut odds because, guys could win. But, if you stack your team full of, 4 teams that, only are 6 teams, but only 3 of them, make the cut. It doesn't matter how good they are if they can't score enough to, get through the cut line. I don't know where the cut line will be. I don't know how many are going to score, but I imagine it's going to be, up there quite a bit. So, squeaking by with, 2 or 3 under on Thursday or Friday is just not going to get the job done, at least to where you need it to be. So with the form, normally, in times I've gone 4, times I've gone 3, but with this, because it's so stacked, I really just cut it in 2. I went back about 8 weeks, which is going to really give you more of that 20, 24, maybe even 28 round kind of window. And then rather than go back farther than that, I used 24 weeks, which takes it back to about November 1st. So you get a little bit of a cushion from the fall, but primarily everything's still really geared towards, what people have done lately. I mean, it's nice that who the heavy hitters are and the studs are in the field, but you need to see, finding that diamond in the rough, that guy that, is probably getting hot now and then maybe can continue one more week and, shoot something nice to help his partner out and score up the board is the guy you need. And there's a couple of guys that the model sniffed out. So, that's there too. The putting is interesting because, we're still working with that Tiff Eagle Bermuda, but the one wrinkle this week is, you've got the overseed with the Velvet Bent, which is slightly different from, the last couple of weeks, like, the Heritage last week where it was more POA than anything, but it looks like it's going to probably be more 50-50-ish than really the Bent taking over. So that should help a little bit and kind of take things more back towards the baseline. Then the, still have the tee to green in there, and so I modified it a little bit. The off the tee stuff is probably higher than it was last week because you're going to need to be able to kick it into gear in a couple of holes, but it's still predominantly approach heavy for me, and the around the green is still a touch higher than probably the baseline, but it's still probably 45-50% in terms of approach, and then it's slightly more off the tee than around the green for the rest. Then the secondary stats for me are more of kind of a guessing game and a gamble. It's more kind of taking a look at the course and just kind of chopping it up and know what, Dye's done in the past. You've got your, plethora of, par fours. And so that's going to be important, but, you still need to score on the par fives, birdie or better is going to be important too. And, not three putting, because that's going to be crucial for, making sure you can, get the hole that you need. And, that and certainly not, not bogey, and then be able to, get yourself out of trouble, so scrambling, proximity, all the normal players are there. But basically it's kind of hard to, try to figure it out. So I built the model separately for individuals, and then I turned around and put it back together for teams. So it's kind of interesting when you look at the pricing, because, there's some guys that make sense that, comparable players ended up about priced where they've been normally priced in other tourneys. But then you could definitely see where some guys that were pretty highly priced and, other tourneys by themselves, got dropped down. Tringali is a great example. Some of the tourneys we've been, on him, he's been high 8s, 9s, even pushing 10, but, because he's carrying his college roommate Castro, he's down around 8,000. So getting Tringali at 8,000 seems nice, if it was just him by himself, but, I wouldn't play Roberto Castro in 2021 at 8,000. I might've played him at 2018 or 2019 at 8,000. So it'll be an interesting thing to see how some of these, play out. But there are all kinds of backstories and wrinkles with a lot of these teams. So it's just kind of sniffing out the ones that you like and think that'll play and hopefully get you through the weekend. And that's the nice thing about this tourney, I mean, you get what your partner brings to the table. So, they're both are going to get your 400 points at the end. You're both are going to get your invites to, Century and things like that. So there's a lot of folks that should be motivated to come out here and do well. And then there's some folks in the field that are just here to help the PGA fill it out. I'm really happy to see, Rocco and Woody playing, but, the odds of them making the cut probably aren't very good. And it's kind of why they're priced down at 6,000. But that's one of those, punt plays or salary fillers just to, do more of a stars and scrubs type thing if you're into that thing. But I'm still not convinced that's the right way to play it this week, but we'll dive into it a bit. But there's my little spiel and crash course to get everything going.
Well, the model is definitely you definitely had to do a lot of shifting and thinking of how you approach this tournament, and we're grateful that you did that. I mean,
Yes,
you probably put a lot more work into this than most. I do have a dumb question, and I got this message, a text message. So if a team wins well, obviously a team is going to win this. What I guess the question is, does that count as a PGA win for their resume, for their record?
Yep.
Do they both get PGA wins to their credit?
I believe so. I believe Ryan Palmer and John Rahm did receive one last year, but we can double check that. That's a good question. Do you disagree there, Nick?
I feel like I've seen that answer and something's not sticking. Like I think you get the benefits of the win, but I'm not sure that it totally counts as one. But I might be off base, but we can kind of research that and get that.
It could make sense.
Yeah, because I know that if you get a win on the PGA Tour, you get exempt status and you get a lot of perks.
You get some of them. I don't think a normal win gets you to, some of the other stuff, but I don't think you get quite the same stuff. And instead of like the 500 points, it's down to 4. But it's kind of crazy because your partner could suck, and you're both getting 400 points, so that's 800. But yet the normal one's only 500. So they're still kicking it in certain places, but they're taking it away in others too. But I think it's like a half-ass win total, because like Palmer's a great example, because over the last year I kept hearing people talk about how he hadn't really won anything in like 8 years or something, but yet I always remembered the Zurich. So I think maybe depends on the context of the conversation too. But it sounds like Drew looked it up. So what'd you find out?
Yeah, I mean, so based off what the PGA Tour said 3 days ago, the Zurich class of New Orleans awards FedEx Cup points and official money and will count as an official victory for the members of the winning team.
There you go.
That's
cool. And I'm not 100% sure if that's something that's changed from this year to last year. Sure, it still could be.
I mean, and I know a lot of people just don't like doing this kind of format on the tour, but knowing that, I mean, I would think there would have been some more big names out there. But I do like the field, and now
it's kind of sketchy though, right? It's kind of sketchy that you get a tour win for it, because I'm kind of with Nick. Like I'm thinking like, I mean,
How did
tour win's a pretty prestigious award. I mean, if you win it with a teammate,
Yeah, I
does
mean,
it water that down
if Hovland and Ventura win, what's the chances of Ventura ever having a tour win? Besides, riding the
Not good.
coattail of a guy like Victor Hovland, and so it is interesting. But you know what? I like it now. Now, do you want to explain the how the DraftKings works before we jump into our fades and plays? Because the way I read it is, and I hadn't put any lineups in yet. I'm doing all that after the show tonight and tomorrow. But the way I read it is, you're going to pick your players. You can't duplicate two players from the same team, and so it's almost like a regular tournament. You're going to get points for both players because you're going to get the team points, and so you just pick your best players that you feel are going to win, right?
Right. I mean, yeah, you could overthink it all day long, but I mean, we know Palmer's playing with Rahm, but Rahm would be the number one guy, most weeks anyway. He's the number 2 salary. So, you're playing Rahm at 11.5 and, you get the bonus of whatever, Palmer does that Rahm can't do. So, you might play Rahm on a week where he's 11.5. You might not. There's some game theory involved, but, then you've got
Palmer on this course.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting names here, but the thing is, you can only pick 6 and you still have to jam it into that 50,000. And like a lot of weeks in some tourneys, there's a lot of junk under 6. So then you kind of have to figure out how to balance it,
Yeah. And so obviously if is this the stupidest thing ever? I mean, the way that they priced them, they still could have priced them differently because, who's going to take Ryan Palmer?
Well, the person that takes,
why would you not take John Rahm if you're going to get the same points? I mean,
they're
rated the same amount of money.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So why not? Why would you take John? I mean, I don't know.
Because it makes no difference one way or the other.
I guess
they should just call it like Team Rahm, and everybody just
Exactly.
knows that like Palmer's on there because it gets.
Well, that's BS. Then why is it not Team? Why is it not Team Palmer? He's got a
come on.
No,
I get it. But how about Team RP? It doesn't matter. Team 1.
Yeah, there's just too much. There's too much crap in there, and people are absolutely going to get confused. And but it's the first year. I think there's some wonky pricing. There's going to be some wonky scoring. They bring this back next year. I'm sure there's going to be some changes because the first year they did it, there were a lot of salaries around 12,000, and you don't really see those anymore. So the fact that Xander and Cantlay are 11.7 and Rahm's 11.5, I mean it's pretty top heavy. There's some interesting choices to be made here for sure, and we can dive into it in a second.
And I'll tell you this, after I started scanning it, because I've been really busy and I started scanning it, I'm not seeing the value I typically see in that 6K range. I've pulled a few nuggets basically because I just trust your model. But other than that, I'm like, boy, this is tough.
There's a couple of guys that, make some sense or you could argue to hold on to and use, lightly, but some weeks, maybe you like a guy and maybe you go crazy, maybe you go 10, 15, maybe 20% if you just get really froggy with a 6K guy. But, I can't see myself, in like a 20 max, wanting to use a 6,000 guy more than, 2 or 3 times, maybe. Sevens are good.
According to the model, your top 6K pairing is Johnny Vegas and Andre Romero. How does that taste?
Which is insane when you think about it, and he's not even like he's 6,400, which is crazy. But the thing that carries him is the way I built it, because he's got some pretty good die form that checks out, and Romero's not terrible. He just hasn't really played a whole lot. He's got some back stuff in there, so it's one of those can Vegas do enough to carry Romero along, and can Romero just chip in the couple of nice shots that he needs to make it count? And there's quite a few teams. Another one's really kind of interesting too. I know it's higher up on the thing is like Charlie Hoffman. I think Charlie Hoffman ranked out 3rd overall when I built the thing as terms of a single, but Watney's played so bad. It kind of weighted it down. But if Watney finds a little form and Hoffman just does what he's doing, that's one of those crazy pairs that might actually be a hidden gem. And they're I think 8,400.
I agree with that, and because the reason I agree with that is I went ahead and threw a model together, not a good one, but I threw it together, and Hoffman was number 1. And I'm like, too bad he's playing with Watney.
Anybody else would have been great, but he probably would have been 9,900, like Gooch and Max Homa. or something
I mean,
crazy like that.
I've obviously these kind of formats. I mean, one guy can just carry if he's hitting on all cylinders. Now obviously there's Thursday and Saturday they're playing. What are they playing?
The 4-ball.
Saturdays.
4-ball.
Yeah, and then it's the foursome on Friday and Sunday.
Okay, so that's another interesting rule.
Well, hey, since I've been running my mouth for a second, so pro, what's the layman's explanation between the difference between 4-ball and foursome?
So when we start out with 4-ball on Thursday, you're going to see 59 watch pretty much all day. It's just the way it works. You play a best ball, basically. You got two guys. You take the best score from the group. That's when you're going to see the real low ones. We see it. I mean, we see it every time when you put two pros together. But then you get to foursomes, and that's when things get dicey. And I guarantee all these groups have already scouted out who wants the even holes, who wants the odd holes.
Yeah.
Because you want to know who's teeing off on par threes. You want to try to preference it to your better iron player, to your better driver. But sometimes when you're talking alternate shot, even par is great. But you're going to see that's the cool part about this tournament is you're going to see super low scores, not so super low scores. Anybody shoots 65, 66 in an alternate shot, they are making up a ton of strokes on the field.
Somebody's got to be putting well, right?
Yeah,
I mean, is that what it comes down to?
Well, and it also comes down to the dude not putting you in the shit. I mean, your partner can put you in, and I mean that's why you look at guys like there's these super long guys like you look at Finau and you look at Champ. Yeah, that's a sexy grouping, right? They pound the ball, but again, you gotta put me in play, and I got to be able to play a shot. That's why you see the ball strikers in day 2 and day 4 kind of excel, guys that are going to get you in play. You put two ball strikers together, you don't necessarily have to worry about playing from anywhere. And so that's where the strategy comes in. You're going to see super, super low scores on Thursday, and then Friday is when the golf tournament starts.
Yeah, and then Saturday we're all bitching.
Yeah, probably Thursday.
Yeah, that's the way it goes, man. This last week tournament, man, it just broke my freaking heart. But we're over that. We're ready to move on, and let's do that. So I'll be honest with you. I had to quickly put my plays and fades for the top 10, and I basically looked at my model real briefly. I looked at mostly at Guru's model, and I kind of just went down the line because Guru's model is way better than my model. And my model is just a little teaser, but let's go ahead and start with the 10Ks. Now, there's obviously when you look at the 10Ks this week and up, I mean, there's a lot of names on there. So really, when you just pick one and you're picking the team, and so I'll go ahead and start off the 10K range, and I start off at the top. I mean, you got to pick one. I'm going to pick Rahm and Palmer. They're. I mean, Palmer's been playing well, and Rahm is Rahm, and they're number one in our model. And so, number one in the model, number one in Vegas, and they're 11. They're not even the most expensive team out there. That's what I like. The fact that Xander and Cantley is more expensive. I'll take the discount for $200 and take the guy that we have ranked first. So I got those guys. And then another guy I have is the next group. I mean, I'm going to call chalk here. And so Xander and Cantley, we just saw Ryan Henson. He just posted up here. Yeah, Xander and Cantley playing. So Cantley chipping more and Xander using tee to green. That's a pretty dadgum dynamic group, even though form right now is not exactly great with Patrick Cantley, is it?
No, but he's one of those guys with the built-in, with the die mojo or specialist juice or whatever you want to call it. So, all he needs to do is just show up and do enough. And if Xander could do the rest, Cantley just needs to just make some shots every now and again. He'll be fine. And if he brings his A game, I mean, they could be the ones that shoot that 59 on Friday for sure.
Right. And then
Thursday,
my third guy that I took and I actually scratched this one out twice. And then before I go to my fade, and I'm going with Scheffler.
Well, can he have a damn teammate? Can Bubba be his teammate at least? You got to go with the team. You can't just go with Scotty Scheffler.
Well, Bubba and Scotty. Okay. I'm going with the team of Bubba and Scotty. And what's actually funny is I think Who do you have? Bubba's actually ranked higher than Scheffler this week. Not by much. No, they're right. Well, obviously they're right next to each other. But I'm going with Bubba and Scotty, and I just think that they have some strengths that can offsuit each other. I think this is the kind of event that they're going to feed off each other pretty good, and so I think your teammate can help you keep your head right. Wow. Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely true. Your teammates are going to. I mean, I think people get up when they have to perform for somebody else. It's just like in international play. And so that's who I'm going with, and I'm fading Kirk, and I just don't think Kirk and Brendan Todd deserve to be in the 10K range. I think Kirk showed some good form earlier in this year. He's playing pretty good, but I just I think they're probably 9 or 8K guys in my opinion, and so I'm fading Chris Kirk and Brendan Todd. I think the course is a little long for Brendan Todd. I think he's going to have to help, but he can definitely get it done on the greens, and so but I don't know if Kirk is actually very long either, and so actually I don't know, and so
a couple of Georgia boys, they're going to get together, they're going to party, they're going to have some fun, they're going to score. They're not going to give a crap. Yeah, they're not going to give a crap if they don't get the 59. They'll be happy with the 62 or 63. They'll just keep on trucking.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Thursday is that money. If the weather's right, ridiculous scores. I mean, you give 2 pros over 18 holes, the best score out of the 2 on a hole. They're gonna lay at the scoreboard.
Yep. All right, pro. Let's go with you, man. Let's go with your top 3 plays and then your fade.
Yeah. So I'll just hit them quickly. Xander and Patrick, they're the best. It's the best team on paper, and in my opinion, in the entire field. I don't know if you can argue it. I don't think you can.
No, you can't really.
And one of the stats that I like this week was birdie or better. Xander's 7th, Patrick Cantley's 14th. I also like Scotty Scheffler and Bubba. I think Bubba's been playing well. We know that Scotty Scheffler and Bubba make a lot of birdies. They're actually 16th as a team, birdie or better, which ranks up there pretty well. And then I actually like Mark Leishman and Cam Smith a lot. Like a lot. That would be my favorite out of the 10Ks, without a doubt.
I had that one and scratched it out because I went chalk.
Yeah, I just like those. I like the 2 together. Cam Smith, we know, has been playing really well, although, you're upset with him currently. Which I
still love the guy. Don't get me wrong. I love the guy. I just couldn't believe the meltdown when everybody's going, you got no names out there shooting 6, 7 under on the same day. He's shooting 3 over, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? It's rigged.
And Mark Leishman to me is he's rock solid. He's a great teammate to have because he's not a guy that misses sideways. I like that team a lot at 11,100. So those would be my 3. I thought about fading Hatton and Danny Willett, but man, there's just too much. I can't do it. I'm gonna fade Chris Kirk and Brendan Todd as well. And it's not because of Chris Kirk's form; it's because of Brendan Todd's form. He just hasn't been that good. After a remarkable 2020, and 2021 has not been kind to Brendan Todd, so I'll fade them.
I kind of think I kind of look at this a little bit like when I'm playing in a foursome and I'm really, really bad. I tell the guys, look, guys, I'm not a very good golfer, but I'm gonna have fun and we're gonna have a good time out there. I said, just make a few putts, and I think that's what Kirk is gonna tell Todd. Just make a few putts, man.
You're right.
My turner's
it's you, man. Let's go with the guru because he's gonna shake this thing up. I can tell. Does
Justin have anything or no? Not yet.
No, I didn't get my form from Justin, and so he's probably driving, saying, "Dadgummit, I forgot to send it to him."
No, that's okay. That's okay. So yeah. I'm gonna shake it up because that's what I do. I'm a blender. I'm just gonna blend it and shake it up. So I'm gonna start with Billy Ho and Sam Birds at 10-5.
You bastard! Billy Ho deserves to be on no lineups. Although.
Yeah. I think that lineup, I thought about that, and then I actually had Burns as a fade, and I decided not to fade. But I think they're going to be so chalky because of Burns and Louisiana, and that's where he's from, and blah blah blah.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the ownership because I think I trust myself, and I feel like I could probably find the combo to get 6 through, and I'm not sure the whole lot of other people can, or at least going to play enough lineups to do it. So I think I can make it work. Yeah, no, I'm feeling pretty.
No. It's a rock solid lineup. I just refuse.
I'm feeling pretty good. It's what
I will admit, Billy Ho is playing pretty good, but he melts down fast.
Oh, no, for sure. But I mean, like, he won here by himself.
He takes his shoes off and he goes into the water like every day.
But he knows where the Gators are here in Louisiana because he won by himself, and then he won the team thing a couple years ago. So I think he knows the course. Burns went to college at LSU, so he's got that whole LSU thing. And so when I cooked up the model, with the Tiff Eagle and all that stuff, the top 2 putters according to the model were Billy Horschel and Sam Burns. So the fact you have the 2 best putters arguably in the field together on the same team, that's either going to be really, really good or really, really bad. But we'll hope for good and not bad.
Well, I didn't know that. That's
kind of
turning me.
It's an interesting, I wouldn't have known it either. I mean, again, that's the way I chopped it up. Somebody might say they're, lower down, but yeah, the way I looked at it, top 2 together, which I thought was kind of interesting. And then as far as like the die specialist or whatever, they're both inside the top 15. So I think they can handle the course. And then they're both inside the top 20%. So in terms of average DraftKings points, so they can score, they tend to know what die does, and they can putt. I'll take my chances that they can find the fairway and do enough to make it work. So they were number 1. I'm also going to do the whole, team Bubba Scotty and, see what's there. What's interesting is I don't think I knew about Bubba is Bubba had won here by himself in 2011. And then in 2017, he was in the top 5 with whoever he was teaming with at the time. Percy or Glover or somebody along those lines. I don't know. Nobody really special.
Has a sneaky, solid win total career that you really wouldn't think of because you just think of the 2 Masters, but he's actually been was sneaky good. But
yeah, but you think of even the course, even if you expand that to top 10s, I mean, just the places he top 10s, he top 10s all kinds of crazy places you don't even know about outside of the Bubba courses. And I wouldn't even really consider this a Bubba course. Nope. But even so, he ranks out 17th as far as the, die specialist on the model. And even Scheffler's 31. So as a pretty good pairing, I think they could go, do okay. And then they're both inside the way I cooked up the modified tee to green, they were both inside the top 15. So all I need him to do is just make a freaking putt. And I'm looking at you, Bubba, because that's all I need you to do. And then, Scheffler's inside the top 20% with the average DraftKings points. So I think, he can score. And we know what he could do. He can get hot in a hurry. And
fill it up.
So it's really nice to know that right now we do have a consensus play at the top.
And he's Bubba. And he's 10-9, which is great because you could work with that. That gives you money to do some stuff down low. So there you go.
Because I know you don't have one higher than that.
No, I don't, because number 3 for me is I'm going to play Chris Kirk and Brendan Todd.
Sure.
So and basically the way you kind of described it along the way is exactly the reason why I'm going to take it. I'm going to take Kirk to do the tee to green dirty work, and I'm going to take Brendan Todd to make the putts. Kirk was number 9 in the die specialist for me, and then Brendan Todd was the 4th ranked putter that I had on the model. I'm going to piece it together and hopefully they can get the job done. And then in terms of scoring, Kirk was in the top 10% of the field in terms of average DraftKings points. And even worrying about Brendan Todd, he was still top 20%. Granted, some of that skewed towards the fall a little bit too, but I'll take a shot at it. And the fact that they've played together, both went to Georgia, I know they're going to know what it makes each other tick. And somebody has he's going to rub him right and tell him to shake it off and get his head out of his ass and all that good stuff. So yeah, for sure. So there's a whole lot of other places I could go as far as a fade, and I have no legitimate reason to do this other than I don't like the fact that where it leaves me in terms of salary behind it. I'm just not comfortable with it. So I'm going to fade Xander and Cantlay.
Wow.
And I there's no reason to do it other than I think 11-7 is just an ugly number.
It's high.
And split that between the 38-3 that's left. That's an average of 71 and some change. You could still jam in 1-8-9 guy pretty good, but after that, then you're pretty much living between 66 and 7,400, and there's not enough action down there to really make me want to build a good lineup. So I'd rather take the savings and start a little lower. And honestly, if you ask me too, I'm not a big fan of defending champs. And Rahm and Palmer are absolutely in form, but I don't think I'll play Rahm and Palmer, and I don't think if I had to play an 11K guy, honestly, I would probably go with pro and probably play Cam and Leishman because I think they've got quite a bit of history together, and I'll ride the Cam heater. But honestly, I think I would probably start with Scheffler and Bubba at 10-9 and work my way down. So yeah, there's my 10K and up.
Ryan put a question up there: if do they get 2 cracks at birdie putts? I don't think they do.
I think he was making
scramble.
I think he was making a joke because I called him the 2 best putters, like, you know.
Oh yeah, because it's not a scramble; it's a best ball. So,
and let me ask you this: this is another question I have that I just don't know the answer to, and either, and I just thought about it: is how do they select these pairings?
Oh well, wait. So you mean the teams?
Yeah.
Most of these teams are them. You can come in with your own team. These guys pick themselves, and then basically the leftovers kind of. It's kind of like remember in recess when the people wouldn't get picked and shit. That's kind of like what this is. Is like you can pick your team. As far as I know, I mean, because Rahm and Palmer clearly they're coming back again. You see Morikawa and Wolf, Team TaylorMade. So
I saw On and M. And I see the Georgia teammates and so forth. And so I was wondering if they had some influence or how that worked. So they're just pairing up.
Yep.
Yeah, pairing up and whatever's left. I don't know if it's like order that you sign up, like, you know, the first guy to sign up single gets with the second guy, or the first guy single gets with like the last guy. I'm not sure how that's divvied up, but there's some interesting pairings that don't have a backstory that I could find out. And I'm curious how some of those do, but there's some interesting ones that do have a pretty good story too.
I'm surprised that Billy Ho and Sam Burns, because they're LSU and in Florida, they're pretty big rivals in the SEC.
I was kind of surprised about that too. And considering, you know, Billy Ho knows a bunch of people, I was really kind of stunned that they ended up, I don't know if he asked for that or somehow the tournament people pushed that on him. I'm not really sure, but I'm curious to see how it plays out.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch. And I love it. My model really liked Jason Kokrak, but it did not like Pat Perez. And I'm like, how did that pairing? I mean, I'm just, and I don't mean to get us off track, but
but you know, they're actually chummy and actually really good friends. I did not know that until I started looking. I like you, I was like, what the hell? This makes no sense. But doing some legwork, yeah. Like they played a 9-hole charity match last summer before the Wyndham played against something else. And so, yeah, they have a backstory. Like they're okay.
It's hard not to like Pat Perez.
It's all about the shoes.
All right, let's go to the 9Ks. We're going to stick with three plays and a fade, and we'll go ahead and let Guru just go ahead and run right into the 9s.
So all kinds of interesting places you could go here. And I started with, because of its name factor alone, I took Usti and Schwartzel at 9,400. South Africa is not a huge place in terms of, you know, major PGA golfers. So it seems like a lot of these foreign golfers all kind of know each other and hang out. I know they've played together, known each other, President's Cup and all kind of great stuff. And so, yeah, like the backstory's there, the history's there, you know, they're going to work. Charles was 38th in the model, according to the Tiff Eagle with the putting, which is cool. Usti was 15th as far as the die specialist goes. And then he was in the top 10% of average DraftKings points scored. So they have enough together. I'm not really worried about them. I think they'll do okay. 9,300, I went with Keegan Bradley and Brendan Steele. That's one I probably wouldn't have landed on my own, trying to just make salaries work. But it's interesting because Bradley can't putt, but he's been striking the hell out of the ball for the last, you know,
he's
couple
hitting
of
greens, that's for sure.
And he's actually been doing better with the putter than, you know, you'd probably think. But then when I looked at it, he was third in the third in the die specialist as far as the model goes. That was too good for me, you know, not to use, even with the you know, crappy putting. And, you know, when I modified the tee to green for him, he was still 8th in the field, which I thought was pretty good. And then Steele was 18th as far as the die component. And then he was still in the top 20% as far as average DraftKings points. I think it's an interesting pairing. I think it's kind of boring, but honestly, if Steele can just hit, you know, he's one of those total driving guys. So if he can just keep hitting, you know, fairways and greens and just, you know, hopefully get the ball closer than, you know, 20 feet. So Keegan has a shot at least, you know, 2 putting it in, you know, we'll be pretty good. Then the third one I took, kind of surprising because I really thought I'd end up in a couple other places, but I'm really big on the existing kind of pairings and folks I think have played together. So I took Thomas Pieters and Tom Lewis. Tom Lewis isn't a guy that I would normally play, and I wouldn't go probably anywhere near. But when I started looking at it, so Pieters has got 4 straight top 15, so the form's actually pretty good. He was 31st in the model as far as the Tiff Eagle goes with the putting. He was 18th as far as the modified tee to green, which was pretty good. He's top 10% in the field in terms of average DraftKings points. And he's actually got a pretty good record that I could find for match play. It looked like he was 2-1 in 4-ball and 2-1 in foursome. So, you know, he can kind of, if he just stays the course, he's all right. What I need Tom Lewis to show up and actually do what everybody says he's capable of doing, that we've seen, you know, sporadically over the last, 12 months. But, he was still even, 54th in the die. When you figure there's 160 guys in the field, 54 is really not terrible. And then, 36 with the modified tee to green. So just show up and just do a little bit more than normal, and I certainly think be pretty competitive. And even when they modeled it out, they were still the 20th best team overall, which I think is pretty good. But I also think that shows a lot of how good really Pieters has been, and how underrated he's probably been in some of the larger fields. I mean, he's kind of underperformed in some of the second tier fields, like the Puerto Ricos and things like that of the world. But, one of these days he's going to show up into something nice and actually, make his mark. Will this be the week? I don't know, but I certainly think he could finish top 10, no problem. So that leads me to the fade of the week. And the fade of the week for me, and I hopefully don't come to regret this, but I'm going to fade Justin Rose and Heinrich Stenson.
All right.
I like Rose and I like Stenson, but honestly, and I think together they'll do great, but Stenson's just going to have to give me one, man. And if this is the week he burns me, this is the week he burns me. But, for the 9,500, it's just not worth it. He's just shown nothing. He's capable of flipping it on a switch, just kind of like Rose did at the Masters. But I don't think this is the place Stenson's going to flip it. Rose could certainly carry him for a little while, but, I don't need him to just make the cut. At 9,500, I need him to score pretty big, and I'm not convinced that they'll be high enough to make it worth my while.
Right. I like that fade. As a matter of fact, I was thinking about that fade, and I wrote down a fade, and I might still switch it. And
it's just hard to fade name guys. I'd rather fade two guys that just don't belong at 95. Like I just an example, Brendan Grace and Harold Varner III, they were on my short list for a while, but then I found out they actually know each other, play a little bit. This isn't the first time they've hooked up, and I kind of was like, 96 is still kind of scary, but I still felt more comfortable with Rose and Stenson. Anyway, well, my time is up. I'm going to pass the baton.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the nines, and then we'll let Pro finish the 9K up. I am. You obviously know who my first 9K play is, and it's no surprise. And when I measured it up versus your model and my model, I'm just real happy with it. And of course it's Hovland. And I just my model, which has approach being number one. I also did proximity, 200 plus, in all those factors. And Hovland was fourth. He's second off the tee, which I like. The proximity with the irons, he's 300. He's third overall. He's 19th in approach, and I think he's one of the best players in the world. And so, and talking about the teammates, he's playing with his former Oklahoma State teammate, who is also very strong in some of those long iron shots, Ventura. And typically, and we've actually recommended Ventura in some other tournaments. And he's done pretty well. But, in this tournament right now, in this field, in the last 24 rounds, Ventura is 9th in driving distance, 8th in proximity, and 8th in putting.
Damn.
And so between the three of those, they got putting, they got distance, they got off the tee, they got proximity, covered pretty good. And they know each other because they played countless rounds together as teammates at Oklahoma State. So that's my first play. My second play is a surprise, and it is down on your model, but I just wanted a value play at 9K, and it's 9,000, and that's Lanto Griffin. He's actually in this field 9th in approach, 11th in proximity, 19th in driving distance, 20th in putting, and in his playing partner Um, oh, Joel Damon. He's actually had pretty good form coming into this, and so they might complement each other. But they're right at 9K, and there's not going to be a lot of ownership on that, and so I'm going to have some Lanto Griffin in there, and Damon, and then finally the one I really like as well is I like Max Homa and Taylor Gooch this week. I talk about that proximity, that long iron shot. Homa's number 1 in the field. He's also number 5 in the field in approach. He's 16th in the field in putting. And then you go down and you look at Gooch, and Gooch is 8th in approach, 37th in putting. And so I think overall, I think both those guys, even though they're at the high end of the 9Ks, I like both those guys. And Max Homa's been in rare form on Twitter the last couple of days, and I like that too. And so, so those are the 3 guys I'm starting in the 9K range. And I changed it. I changed my fade to Rose. You made a hell of a case, and I'm fading the Leprechaun, man. That's where I'm going.
Masters hangover. I got it.
Why wouldn't I?
No reason not to.
All right. Well, jumping right into it. I'm not going to beat a dead horse. One of my favorite groupings out of this entire tournament is Max Homa and Taylor Gooch, second in birdie or better. This team makes a lot of birdies. They hit the ball, they in play, they hit the ball somewhat close. They're one of, if not my favorite grouping of the tournament this week. I'm also going to ride Keegs and Brendan Steele, a couple ball striking dudes. That's what they do. Not going to push you out of play a lot. They're going to be in play. They're going to have opportunities. I like them a lot. And then actually, I'm going to go with Brendan Grace and Harold Varner III. And the reason that I like this grouping is because, A, Harold Varner's been playing well.
Oh, yeah.
This grouping, to me, they don't have any flaws. They're not long. They hit a lot of greens. Again, it's one of those. It's all who makes the putts here. But I don't dislike this group. I'm going to fade Thomas Peters and Tom Lewis, and the reason I'm going to fade that group is because the big swinging Belgium, Thomas Peters himself, he is just you can't count on him for anything. You play him, he's terrible. You don't, he's solid. I just don't have the heart to play Thomas Peters. The talent's there. The talent's been there. The talent has been there with Thomas Peters. He just hasn't shown up, although he's mostly a European Tour player. But I'm going to go ahead and fade him and Tom Lewis.
Sounds like a great cage match between Guru and you, because he's playing him. And so it's going to be fun. Cage match, man. All right, Pro, go ahead and stick with the 8Ks, man. Let's hear it, man.
Yeah, I'll start out with probably an interesting one. I'm going to go with G-Mac and Matt Wallace.
Wow.
Yeah, Matt Wallace been playing well, and surprisingly, if you look at G-Mac and what he did, I believe in Puerto Rico. You guys can kill me if it's a Dominican. They're the same damn tournament in my mind. But he played well. This is a little interesting, but I think Matt Wallace is playing really well, and G-Mac can roll the rock. So if they have opportunities, G-Mac's going to make them, especially come that foursome on Friday and Sunday. I'm also going to go with Kevin Shrillman and Dylan Fratelli. Again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but just a rock solid group. Guys that are going to keep it in play. Kevin Shrillman, to his credit, has had a hell of a back half of a career and made a shitload of money. For the record, he's been good. He's been making cuts. I'm going to roll with that team. And then, as much as I don't like Pat Perez, Jason Kokrak, for the record, another dude that everybody said was just a long driver of the golf ball, has become consistent as hell. He's constantly been on leaderboards. I'm going to take that group. And then I will fade Doug Gim and Justin Sue. Doug Gim hasn't been great outside of contending, a month and a half ago. If I got to fade one, I'm going to fade them at 8,100.
Not bad, not bad.
Good arguments for sure on all of them. And yeah, interesting. Guru, what do you got? 8K.
Well, I'm going to play Shrillman and Fratelli too. Fratelli is 21st in the die, and Shrillman is 4th. So together, that's an interesting combination of guys that should be able to get around okay. Shrillman was 5th in the comps aspect of the model, which I thought was pretty good, and then he was 22nd in the modified tee to green. So it's an interesting pairing. I'm still not exactly sure how it came together. It looked like it was kind of random that just sort of happened, but we'll see how it goes. But I think it's pretty good. I mentioned earlier, I kind of alluded to it earlier. So I'm going to play Kokrak and Pat Perez too. Just because, two guys that know each other can cut up and have a good time on the course. I think they're going to have some fun. They may not win, they may not score, but Kokrak is in the top 20% of average DraftKings points in the field. Kokrak is 26th in the die, 39th with the comps, and he's 20th with a modified tee to green. I just need Pat Perez to make some putts and just not, get crap on his shoes, and we'll be doing pretty good. Then the third one, which was kind of interesting, but I've taken it more because they actually have some history here in the tourney, and it wouldn't have been one that I would have known about had we not been playing the Zurich. But I'm gonna take a stab with Lucas Glover and Chaz Reavie.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it surprised me too. That's what I said too when I actually wrote it down on the paper. So they were 22nd as a team in 18, and then they were 18th in 2019. Reavie hasn't been doing great now, but I think Glover's in the middle of this. I don't want to call it heater, or at least this brief resurgence. I don't know if it's going to continue. I don't know if it's over. We'll find out. But Glover's 29th in the die. He's 38th with the comps, and he's 32nd with the modified, tee to green. And then Reavie's 33rd with the die. He's 20th with the comps, and he's 45th kind of tee to green. I think it may be bumpy for a couple of holes, but I think once they get it together, I think it'll click. Combination of Thursday and Friday. So for 8,900, it's worth a shot. Then the dangerous fade of the day. Of course, I'm full of them, so this is probably the one not to do. Completely do the opposite of what I say. But I'm going to fade Kiz and Scott Brown. Take the guy that has, with 300 rounds between the two of them together. Take the guys that play cash games all the time. Take the guys that have had decent success here in the tourney. But honestly, I haven't seen Scott Brown do jack squat in quite a while. I know Kisner's working through some stuff. It didn't really cut it the match play. Kind of disappointed the Masters. I don't think the putter's working. I think there's a whole lot of other stuff that's not working. Maybe this is the week that Scott Brown gets his stuff together, but I don't know that Scott Brown's still got enough juice to carry Kiz wherever he needs to go. So for 8,700 or whatever they are, yeah, I'll take a pass.
Wow. Okay. Who was your third play? You had Kokrak, Perez, Fratelli and Shrillman,
and then Glover and Chaz Reavie.
Got it.
E-Lover.
Yeah.
G-Love. Okay, 8K. I'm going to echo a little bit of your sentiments. I'll move quickly on this one. I'm also Kokrak and Perez. I like the dynamics of the team, and I got Kokrak really high, and of course the model does. The model has that as our highest ranked 8K team, and so once again I trust in the model. And it's been making a lot of money for me and for everybody. And so I trust in that. I don't need to go into the statistics. I got a couple off names here that I like, and I like just because there's a few things I like that they do, and I don't think they're going to be heavily owned. I like EVR and Wyndham Clark. They're at the bottom of the range at $8,200, and we've actually seen some pretty good form from these guys. And as a matter of fact, Wyndham Clark, he's number 2 in driving distance. It's close to 7,500 yards. He's top 20. He's number 18th in proximity on 200 plus on these long irons. And EVR has really picked his game up. Especially also in approach. He's not great in that proximity. So I look at the strengths from one, and I look at the strengths from the other, and they kind of help each other out truly. Because where one is weak, the other one is strong, where one is, and vice versa. And so I kind of like those guys because they're on the cheap end of it, and I don't think they're going to be heavily owned. And then I also like, just because he's been one of the closest to the win poster boys this year, and that's Tringali. And Tringali is right up there, and he's at the bottom of the 8K range at 8K. The only difference is I'm not a huge fan of Robert Castro, but the way Tringale's actually playing, I like him a lot. And
I think they went to college together, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there's some, if you're going to ride the Hovland and Ventura train, it totally makes sense to do that too.
Yep. And Tringale's 10th off the tee in this field. He's 29th in proximity. He's 16th in approach. And let me see what Castro. I think it could be one of those that they go out there and let loose and just have a good time. And who knows what happens. But I'm going with the guy that I think has the game for this course, and I really like what Tringale's done, and I like he's cashed a lot of lineups for us this year, and the model likes him, so I'm going there. And my fade is Wallace and McDowell, and I don't have a legitimate reason. I know there's a conspiracy out there. There's a conspiracy out there that I don't like the Euros, and that's not true at all. And I think Pro is creating this conspiracy.
Listen, the math checks out.
It's not true. It just appears.
Well, there's a few more. Let's see what happens the rest of the way.
It's not true. Even though so far I've faded Rose and now Wallace, I think it's a little personal because I like these guys and they've let me down. I don't know, but anyway, if I look at the model and I just I see McDowell. They're down there and they're 8,600. I just like the guys that are 8,000, 81, 8,200 a little bit better, and so they're ranked higher, and so I'm all in on that. I'll take the higher ranked guys in the model at $600 less cost for DraftKings, and so that's kind of the only purpose I really did that for. And Ryan does go, so we don't have to worry about Jackson Euro events. Yeah, well, I'll bet on anything. I'll bet on how long it takes a raindrop to cross the windshield if somebody's willing to put some action on it. But no, you're right. I'm not going to be. Unless somebody like Homa or Scheffler or some of those guys go over there, I'll be betting. But anyway, that's my 8Ks, and I will jump right into actually, we'll let Guru start off the 7Ks.
Okay, so the first one I wrote, even though it's a smidge lower down, I'm going to do Michael Thompson and Will Gordon. It seemed kind of like an interesting pairing to me, and it's actually one of the ones that I would drop the 90-1 on the outright and see how it goes.
And how good is Thompson playing?
He's, Ryan was one of those guys that was on him pretty early, and he has had some good form off and on for a while, but I know Ryan got on him a couple weeks before he really got hot, and I think he's still been riding him pretty good, so kudos to Ryan for that call. But Thompson and Gordon are kind of, I don't want to say similar players, but they're kind of in the same boat, and even some of the stats check out. So Thompson was 39th as far as the die, and Gordon was 38th, so they're kind of running neck and neck right there. Thompson was 46th in the comps, and then he was 6th as far as the Tiff Eagle with the putting. So if he can keep rolling the rock, we'll be pretty good there. Then, what'll sell it is he was 37th as far as the, modified tee to green that I used. And then he's, top 20% in the field as far as form. I just need Gordon just not to just come out and shoot an 83. That's all I need him to do. We'll be good.
I actually got Gordon ranked higher than Thompson this week.
He's one of those guys that keep waiting for, like, if you go back and kind of look at some of these models, like the same names show up about the same kind of spots. They juggle, but it's hard for lower tier guys to get up there. And Gordon's just going to have to start winning, I think, for him to just get up there, or at least consistently just show some good form. But I mean, some of the stats check out. But the higher 7K guy that I've got, I just wrote him down second. I think they'll be kind of chalky though, but I'll try Seifert and Matt Naismith. Seifert was 7th with the die, 34th in the comps, and then Naismith was 13th with the modified tee to green. And then Seifert, in the last 8 weeks, he was the top 20% in terms of form. So he wasn't there to begin with, but he's been getting there. So, and I just need, Naismith just to do what he's been doing and hopefully make a couple of putts along the way. And it seems like, of course, he might actually do all right. And that's kind of an interesting pairing that it's one of those that you really wouldn't think about, but then they get together and you find out a couple of years they're still playing together because they actually like each other. So it's one I'd actually be kind of curious enough to watch. I'm not sure I'd bet on it though. Then tried to get a little crazy with the 7Ks because at least following the model, those two are up there. Seifert and Naismith were the 17th ranked team that I had, and Thompson and Gordon were the 19th. But then it starts to get a little dicey. I thought about, the next one up, but I didn't like it as much as I thought I should. And then I went a little further, and then all the others were kind of together. So I thought I'd get a little crazy and try something that wasn't as chalky. So I'm going to try Bo Hostler and Tom Hoagie. Hostler's form has just been just doo-doo, for lack of a nicer way to say it. Yeah. But he's the 5th ranked TIFF Eagle putter that I had in the whole field. And that's the one thing where I keep coming back to him because all I need him to do is putt. Problem is he hasn't been putting. And, the rest of his game has left him with putts that are just so unbelievably not in his wheelhouse. The putts just don't matter. So maybe in a field like this that Hoagie can set him up, and then Hostler can just make the putts, and that's where he's going to earn his keep, is when they're playing the alternate shot stuff. And then Hoagie's 27th with the comps. He's top 20% in the form. He's 23rd with the modified tee to green, and he's got 44th as far as the die specialist in the field. So I actually like that quite a bit. And I figure it was worth the stab in the dark. And then the fade for me in the 7K range was kind of tough because there are a couple of ways I wanted to go, but I ended up for the fact that I'm going to get burned for this, but Sam Ryder and Doc Redman.
You're fading them?
Yeah. I haven't, Doc's coming back. I think it might be, soon. He's shown life. If you kind of look at some of the stats and kind of look at him for like 24 rounds, you look at him for 16, you look at him for 12 and 8, you can kind of see aspects are picking up. I don't know that he's all the way back or he's going to do enough this week. And Ryder seems up and down for me. Like Ryder could do enough. If Redmond was in better form, I think the better partner could make Ryder look really good. And he's actually somebody I think would do remarkably well with a better partner. I just don't think it'll happen this week. And, he checked out as the 42nd team. So, if it's even if it's 35, 36, model thinks he's on the wrong side of the cut line. So I'm going to trust the model rather than, argue. So yeah, wow. Those are my 7Ks.
All right. I like it. Hey, Pro, what about you?
Yeah, I'll just run through mine real quick. I'll also take Chase Seifert and Matt Neesmith. I will take actually one that has been mentioned, Sneds and Crunchy Keith Mitchell. Listen, there's no reason for me to take them. Sned's form's been shit, but Keith Mitchell could make some birdies. Again, in this format, you don't know. Those are two classy players, two guys that know how to get around. And then I'm going to go with Sam Ryder and Doc Redman. Listen, you hit it on the head. Sam Ryder's kind of the week you pick him, he's shit. The week you don't pick him, he's actually pretty solid. But I'm still going to go with that. My fade's going to be Martin Laird and Nick Taylor. Again, it's just who I'm going with.
I wanted to go there as well, but the one thing that stopped me there was they've actually played together. I think they've had 2 reasonably decent finishes here in the last 2 years here. And so I tried not to fade like teams that have played, with the exception of Kiz and Brown, just because they play too much and they've just sucked. And then I like the Sned pick too, because if you actually, I can't remember if it's 8 or 12 weeks. If you look at the 8 or 12 week kind of trend, 8 or 12 round trends versus like 16 to 24, this might be the week they pop, or at least one of them does. If it's not this week, it might be in the next 1 or 2. And Sneds hasn't looked terrible. And, Mitchell's won more, recently than Sneds. So, I mean, together it could be interesting. So I like it. If I was going 4 picks, they probably would have been it for me.
Nice. Okay, 7K. I'm also on the bandwagon with Thompson and Gordon, and you kind of went into all the reasons why there, and I really like how they offset each other. I'm also in the Neesmith camp with you guys for sure, and so we got alignment on that one. And then the other one is going to be a little bit of a surprise, but I've got some sentimental value on this one, and actually all we need is JJ Spawn to have some good drives in the fairway, which he's really good. He's accurate off the tee, and Matt Jones can do the rest. And Matt Jones is firing pretty well. He's 39th off the tee himself. He's 22nd in distance. He's 46th in approach. He's also top 24 in a putting. And so if he can do what he does and have really good shots in off the tee from him or Spawn, I think they can make the cut. And so that's my other 7K guy. And I'm fading Mav McNeely. And let me see if I can find my. Why am I fading Mav McNeely?
I like his wife or his girlfriend.
What's that?
Isn't he dating Danielle Kang?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm not really like in with the TMZ shit, but I'm pretty sure they've been dating for like 5 years. I love me some Danielle Kang.
I hear you. Here's why. Because I look at approach, which was the most important thing for me. He's 145th in the field. Big, huge red flag. And he's at the top of the range. And this comes to salary. When you're at this point, he's 7,900. There's too many good options in the 7K range that we already talked about. That's less expensive, and so you get a guy that's that bad in approach shots with that high of a range in that price range. I'm out, and so I'm passing on Maverick McNeely. So that brings us to the 6K value plays, which we talked about earlier in the show. It's not sexy at all, is it?
No, because I mean, Vegas by himself is nice. He's done okay for us, but I can't think of any universe that I would want to play Andres Romero. But this is the one where I guess they team up and they make sense on paper. It's the strong guy with the weak guy. You put them together, and they're slightly above average, and that's sort of above average. Not spectacular, but just enough kind of story that we've been using with some of the model has more often than not done okay. So yeah. I'm hoping that Vegas has got enough mojo to make Romero look good. And, at 275 to 1, as far as, the last betting line that I saw, got him 29th in the model. It's definitely worth taking some action on a top 10, top 20 or something like that. I don't know if I'd be crazy enough to use him a whole lot, but yeah, he was one of the two I was heavily considering using for sure.
Right. Some other 6K guys?
Yeah, so I went a little further down, not too far though. I actually think Roger Sloane and Aaron Baddeley are kind of interesting. And nobody's great, but nobody's awful. But, they're probably like the poor man's Ventura and Romero, except that I think they're not quite Vegas good, but they're a hell of a lot better than Romero, and put them together. So Sloane right now was 26th with the tee to green when the way I cooked it up in the model, which I thought was pretty good for a 6,500 guy. And then he was 45th with the putting. And, Baddeley's streaky. I mean, he seems to be kind of on the way back from working the stuff out. I know he's been playing some, KFT events, trying to, get some reps in and hopefully, get some form going. And so, and I think one of the KFT events I want to say was down in Louisiana or Mississippi. So I think he's comfortable and he's still working with whatever big name coach he's working with. So and together, I think it's streaky. I know they're only 125 to 1, but at 34th, the model had him cooked out the 34th best team. So that's kind of right on the cut line. And, they're going to be, I don't think there'll be many, but there'll be a couple of 6,000 teams that sneak in and make the weekend. And, I don't know that I'm comfortable going any lower than 64, but these are 65. So, Vegas makes sense. And this one made sense to me. And then I guess if you really wanted me to come up with a third one, the other one that actually made sense, surprisingly, it's kind of a shot in the dark, but it's more of a narrative than anything. And that's the word I was looking for, storyline. So I know Hearn was playing with Seamus Power. I know Seamus Power pulled out, but the fact that Zach Zucker got in late He was playing some hit and miss events for a couple years, but I think maybe like 1920, he was even active on Twitter. He could putt and get hot and streaky. I think this is his one lifeline back into regular PGA events. And I'm not saying he'll have the best week, but the fact that he went from not playing, and he got in as an alternate to a guy that likes the course and seems to play well. I don't know if they played together. I don't know that it'll do well together, but you've noticed how these last alternates to some of these, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 tourneys we've done have actually gotten in and actually done reasonably well. I'm not saying a win or top 10, but for 6,700, that's probably the third one that might come out of nowhere that was on my radar to use. But again, I'm using them sporadically. I'm still probably going to build so I don't have to go into the sixes unless I absolutely have to, and I hope I don't.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And so I'm kind of thinking that same way. As a matter of fact, for 6K, I'm with you on because I just follow the model. But I'm with you on Vegas. And just remember, in this field, in the last 24, Vegas is 5th off the tee, and that's not bad. And 17th in distance. And so he has actually shown out a little bit. He's not horrible in anything. His worst category is 97th, and that's approach. But I also like Kyle Stanley, and
him playing with Lee made sense too. Yeah, they're like right there. They're those guys that always seem to be like right on the cut or just inside, and you put two guys that are trying to get some momentum together that may feed off each other, and those top 50s that they might individually get might suddenly turn into a crazy top 20 that you don't expect. So yeah, no, I like it too.
Yep. And then I got 2 more. Bryce Garnett and in Stallings, and I'm just kind of looking at that, and the reason I picked them was because they were pretty high in the model for the 6K range, and the fact that I looked and Garnett was right there at top. He's 26th in putting. He's 38th off the tee. And then you got Stallings right there in 36th in approach and 47th in proximity. And so 4 of the 5 categories that I really like, they're not bad, especially in that 6K range. And my last one was Luke List, $6,200. He's 6th off the tee in this field. He's 8th in driving distance. He's 45th in approach and 54th in proximity. His worst category is 100th in putting, and that sucks. And who's his playing partner? I got it right here.
Bo Van Pelt.
Yeah, yeah, and so I.
But if List goes out and does his part to shoot an equivalent of 62 or 63, he just needs Van Pelt to just keep it in play and just not make that 63 a 65. I mean, I could see it if there's a guy to get hot and shoot a big round. He's like a poor man's Keegan Bradley, except without the really strong tee to green game right now.
Yep, but you know what? I guarantee you this: he's going to be in the fairway, and he's going to be down there. And so 8th in distance and 6th off the tee. He's long and accurate, and that's all you ask for on this course right now. And so those are my value plays, and we'll go ahead and turn it over to the pro for his.
Yeah, so I have just 3 quick, completely different ones than you guys, of course.
That's good.
Scott,
that's what the people want, man.
Yeah, Scott Piercy and Akshay Bhatia would actually be my first one out of here. The young, slender lefty and a ball-striking Jesse himself and Scott Piercy. I like that grouping. You're going to see Akshay on more leaderboards over time. I'll take Adam Schenk and Tyler Duncan at 6,800.
I was watching them close, too.
Yeah, and then another one I like is Austin Cook and Andrew Landry. I know Andrew Landry's kind of played like dog shit lately. Austin Cook has peeked his head out here recently, so they'll be the third group I take.
Nice. Man, well, that's it, guys. That is the plays and fades. It's going to be a crazy, it's going to be fun to watch every week. Every week it's always different and unique, but every week I just can't wait for Thursday morning. And I just can't. And I just love this stuff so much. Are you guys even ready for a few outright plays?
I haven't hit the button, but I'll tell you what I had marked down just because I want to make sure it all sort of checks out. So Billy Howard Burns at 25 when I saw, but I'm not sure where the odds are today. Usti and Schwartzel at 28. Peters and Lewis at 50, Glover and Reevy at 50, and then Thompson and Gordon at 90. And then I was going to take a stab at Sloane and Battley at 125.
Wow, that's a big one. I love it.
I got nothing. I honestly don't. I don't
you
even
know what?
the
This is the
hell I'm
week
gonna
where we're gonna have to post them tomorrow night. We'll put our outrights. I do know this. I do know that we're gonna have some consensus plays. I think one of our consensus plays is for sure going to be Scheffler. And there's a few others that I saw in there. I think Kokrak is going to be a consensus play for us. I will say this: I did play. I've already played Hovland at 40. You know me, I'm a sucker for that. So at 40, I played him, and I also played Clark and Royan EVR at 60, and I played. And the funny thing is, I didn't even call him in a play for me in my plays and fades. I went ahead and played Ben On and Sanjay M. I think they're getting overlooked. I think they're those guys are really competitive. I think they're going to feed off each other, and I like those guys, and I also like the fact that Sanjay M is still an amazing player, and 45-1. You know what? So I don't have any guys up top, and I'll probably add one or two, and maybe one deeper one. So I'll have more on that tomorrow.
I think it's more of a matchup week or like a parlay kind of week or a group parlay or something. I'm not really one to normally play like the head-to-head kind of stuff, but that's probably the market I would probably dive into. Having said that, tomorrow I was thinking that I may give the Contender a week off and make it more of a betting article, because it's really kind of tough to really come up with enough that's just not me running my mouth. And I feel like I just did that for the last hour and 15 minutes. But the betting might be a little fun because it's one that, having looked at already, I think there's some couple of things out there. So it'll be pretty betting heavy for me. And then everything will be back next week when we get back to Copperhead for the Valspar.
I love it. And so folks, I'm going to remind you guys, even though this is a little bit different tournament, if you're watching on YouTube, go to the comment section, pick your pair, put them out there. If they win, you win. I'll have to figure out how to do the prize and what the prize will be. It might be one of the players. I'm not gonna be able to buy two players, but I will figure something out. Maybe it'll be a picture of them together. It'll be me taking a picture of them on the screen.
Yeah, exactly.
And texting it to you. And so, but do that and get on there. We didn't have a winner last week. Nobody would have predicted that one, which I'm still so impressed with Stuart Sink and what he did last week. It was just so happy to see that. That was awesome. Son on the bag, family there. It was amazing. And so do that, and please like, subscribe, leave the comment like we talked about. Share it. Let people know that we're out here working and we're out here grinding as hard as we can. Look for that article tomorrow. Look for our outright consensus plays tomorrow, and then look for our individual consensus plays tomorrow, and then have fun watching it. And tune in Thursday night for Pro and myself. It's going to be the final show for a couple of weeks as he goes on tour. And plays a few rounds, and until Thursday night, guys, we appreciate you guys. And any final thoughts for you boys?
It's good time.
Good times, man.
Awesome,
enjoy.
guys.
It'll be fun.
Great stuff, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.
Did you get all that? If not, make sure you head over to hammercast.com, subscribe, and join the Hammer Nation. Until next time, keep grinding.